Hey guys, it's Deconic, and this video is going to be a build update for my Wretched Defiler build, as well as going over some things I am testing out that may be really strong, and some things I tried out and maybe felt meh. It is also worth noting that my gear and the footage on screen is very suboptimal, which is why our energy shield is a bit on the lower side. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy the content, as it not only is a big morale boost for me to keep making videos, it helps the videos reach more people as we try to hit 1,000 subs. The first and one of the bigger changes I have made since last video is I have swapped into using a Raid Lord, which means I could no longer use other minions and instead have to rely on the Defilers. This in turn brings attention to my defenses, as with the Defilers kiting and spacing out, monsters will tend to focus on me instead. So I have employed a few different ways to make a character much tankier without sacrificing damage. The next change was going Chaos Inoculation, and if you don't know what that node is, it is this keystone right here that makes your life 1, but you become immune to chaos damage. So your life pool essentially becomes energy shield. I was initially on defense, as I always see CI as being on the pricier side, but in this case, it meant I could completely ignore chaos damage and ailments like poison. It also meant I could focus more on the other suffixes like attributes and resistances instead of chaos res. I then essence crafted my boots and gloves with shrieking essences of woe, and I saved some money on them. But that being said, I have not completed the craft, so they have pretty bad suffixes. When those are fixed, I will be able to lean away from these ghastly eye jewels that provide attributes instead of getting higher rolls on damage or even just ES. Another added defensive layer is the use of Cloak of Flame for 40% conversion of phase damage taken as fire, as well as a taste of hate to convert an extra 15% to cold, and a mastery for armor and ES. That's right, I think here. There we go. That's it converts another 10% of physical damage as chaos damage. This one is being discarded because we are CI and we are immune to chaos damage. And then we have a 10% less physical damage taken at while on full energy shield, which we are always going to be on full energy shield thanks to leech and Ghost River. Ghost River makes it so we leech ES instead of life, and as such we cannot recharge ES. And instant leech makes it so we are not bound by the maximum amount of leech per second we can have, because every hit would still give every hit, even though it doesn't add to the amount of leech we're getting per second, we still get it instantly. So these two make it so we are effectively immune to small hits. And if you do not know, previously minions were bugged so their leech was essentially applying at 1/10 of the intended value, but that has since been fixed, so it works very, very well. It's a very nice defensive layer. You would see it in the clip where whenever my ES drops even a bit, it shoots right back up to full. We have also opted for some crit damage taking reduction through this armor and ES node, Sanctum of Thought, which gives us 30% reduced extra damage from crits, as well as Defiance Banner, which gives us an extra 40% reduced critical strike chance to nearby enemies, something like that. We are spell block capped during this Granite Flask effect, and once we get some increased effect of Bone Offering on our boots, we are going to be attack blocked too. We also have a crafted mod on this flask, which is not mandatory, but I find it's really nice. And what this does is it makes it so we leech 15% of damage taken from hits as life, and of course that gets converted to ES with Ghost River. And why this is good is because at the start of a map, when you do not actually have leech going, if you were to activate this flask and you get hit, you would instantly, the 15% would actually add to the leech, but then you have 1.5% or 10% of that, which would essentially be recovered instantly. And even when you are at your max leech per second, you will still get that instant leech, which just makes it so we are essentially even harder to kill by many smaller hits rather than a big large hit. It makes it, everything we have so far makes it so we are very, very durable versus many small hits, and all the face taken as makes it so we are harder to one shot, as that is the real only way we die. For my next upgrades, I want to focus on defense, as I have neglected it for a long time, which has been okay because of just how strong the defilers are. The first upgrade is going to be a +2 wand with either minion damage or minion cast speed, as my current one doesn't even have either of them and all it has is +1. I also plan to switch my chest piece to a +1 Spectre chest, which will sacrifice some physical damage mitigation, but in the ideal universe, I'm going to craft the new chest piece with some conversion, fist to fire physical, like 18, I think it was like 18% or 60% thereabouts. It's going to be less, but it's still going to be good. And we're going to try to put this on an ES base so that we actually get a lot more ES. Because if you're not aware, the chest piece is one of the biggest energy shield sources, and Cloak of Flame doesn't really do a good job at giving us ES, which is also part of the reason why our pool is this low. And that just makes us more durable to everything rather than just fizz, right? Also keep in mind that I am still scaling armor, so I don't need to convert all my physical damage to elemental. I still have determination. I still have well, I don't use multi-shell anymore because of bleeds. Some smaller things to note if you plan to make the switch yourself. It may not seem important, but you really want to pick up the light radius and stun threshold masteries the moment you switch, because if you do not, without the stun threshold, you will get stun locked every other pack, if not every pack. And without the light threshold, when you're on specific maps that have lower lights, you will barely be able to see anything. So these are just things that may not be obvious, but you want them to be comfortable. You also want to have the Leech Mastery, Ghost Reaver, and potentially the Keystone rather, and potentially the instantly Leech Mastery, as these two are going to make it so you do not die easily because of all the recovery you then get. I also tried playing without Spiritual Command, and it was painful for shield charge. The alternative to running Spiritual Command, like I have, is to link your shield charge to faster attacks, which currently we do not have the socket space for that until we get a Convocation Shield. Now, if you do not have a Convocation Shield, then you probably just want to opt for this, or you just drop shield charge altogether because it was it's very slow. It's not ideal. Now for actual specters, we are currently running 7 Wretched Defilers and 1 Spectral Leader, which is a specter that provides a 20% action speed with near perfect uptime, having about 8-second duration and 10-second cooldown, so 2-second downtime. And I'm also currently testing a Storm Conduit Spectre, as it applies insane shock levels with its 12-second cooldown beam. That shock rather lasts 8 to 10 seconds, lasts a very long time. And I have seen it shock up to like between 42% and 50% on tier 16 bosses and rares. I'm still unsure about running them, so I am not going to recommend it, but they are promising as at least support specters. I'll have to see how good the shock ends up looking like against stuff like pinnacle bosses. And as a side note, their beam does look pretty sick. But the reason we cannot use these specters for, like, instead of Wretched Defilers with such a high damage, high shock playstyle, or with their beam and whatever, is their consistent damage, their basic attacks, their spells rather, they have really low base damage. So what would then happen is you'd end up playing with less damage for 12 seconds, and then you Kamehameha the next enemies you see. So like that isn't, I don't like the inconsistency, so that's why we are opting for them just for shock and maybe that extra bit of damage every 12 seconds. Let me know down in the comments if you have any recommendations for me. If you have tried the build, let me know how it's performing, or if you have any questions. If you haven't already, do consider liking and subscribing as it helps out the channel. And with that being said, thank you for watching.